Okay, welcome back. We are reading The Best Christmas Pageant Ever by Barbara Robinson, starting with chapter 4. It reads, the first pageant rehearsal was usually about as much fun as a 3-hour ride on the school bus, and about just as noisy and crowded. This rehearsal, although, was very different. Everyone shut up and settled down right away for fear of missing something awful the Herdmans might do. They got there 10 minutes late, sliding into the room like a bunch of outlaws about to shoot up a saloon. When Leroy passed Charlie, he knuckled him behind the ear. And a little primary girl yelled as Gladys went by. But Mother had said she was going to ignore everything else except for blood, and since the primary kid wasn't bleeding and neither was Charlie, nothing happened. Then Mother said, and here are the Herdman family. We're so glad you're all here. Which probably was the biggest lie that was ever said right out loud in church. Imogene smiled. The Herdman smile. We all called it sly and sneaky. And they were there, and there they sat, the closest thing to criminals that we knew about, and they were going to represent the best and the most beautiful. No wonder everybody was so worked up. Mother started separating everyone into the angels and shepherds and the guests in the inn, but right away she ran into trouble. Who are the shepherds, Leroy Herdman wanted to know. Where do they come from? Ollie Herdman didn't even know what a shepherd was, or anyway, that's what he said. What's an inn? Claude wanted to know. What's an inn? It's like a motel, someone told him, where people go and spend the night. Well, what people? Claude said. Jesus? Oh, honestly, Alice Watkins grumbled. Jesus wasn't even born yet. Mary and Joseph were there. Why? Ralph asked. What happened first? Imogene hollered at my mother. Begin at the beginning. That really scared me because the beginning was the book of Genesis where it says in the beginning. And if we had to start the book of Genesis, we would never get through. One thing was the Herdmans didn't know anything about the Christmas story. They knew that Christmas was Jesus' birthday, but everything else was news to them. The shepherds, the wise men, the star, the stables, the crowded inn. It was hard to believe. Well, at least it was hard for me to believe. Alice Watkins said that she hadn't had any trouble believing it. How would they find out about Christmas? The Christmas story, she said. They don't even know what a Bible is. Look at Gladys. Look at what Gladys did to the Bible last week. While Imogene was snitching money from the collection plate in my class, Gladys and Ollie drew mustaches and tails on all of the disciples in the primary grade illustrated Bible. They've never been to church in their whole life until your little brother told them we had refreshments, Alice said. And all you hear about Christmas in school is how to make ornaments out of aluminum foil. So how would they know the Christmas story? She was right. Of course, they might have read about it, but they never read anything except for amazing comics. They might have heard about it on TV, except for Ralph paid 65 cents for their TV at a garage sale, and you couldn't see anything on it unless somebody held up the antenna. And even then you couldn't see much. The only other way for them to hear about the Christmas story was from their parents, and I guess Mr. Herdman never got around to it before he climbed onto the railroad train. It was pretty clear Mrs. Herdman had given up even trying to tell them anything. So they just didn't know. And so Mother said she'd better start by reading the Christmas story from the Bible. That was a pain in the neck to most of us, because we'd heard the whole thing forward and back and never had to be told anything except for who we were supposed to be and where we were supposed to stand. And Joseph and Mary, his espoused wife, being great with child. Pregnant, Ralph Herdman yelled. Well, that stirred things up. All the big kids began to giggle. All the little kids wanted to know what was so funny. And Mother had a hammer on the floor with the blackboard pointer. That's enough, Ralph said, and went on with the story. Well, I don't think it's very nice to say Mary was pregnant, Alice whispered to me. But she was, I pointed out. In a way, I agreed with her. It just sounded too ordinary. Anyone could be pregnant. Great with child sounded better for Mary. I'm not supposed to talk about people being pregnant, Alice said, folding her hands in her lap and pinching her lips together. I'd better tell my mother. Tell her what? That your mother is talking about things like that in church. My mother taught me. My mother might not want me to be here. I was pretty sure she would do that, and she wanted to be Mary, and she was mad at Mother. I also knew, too, she'd make it sound worse than it actually was, and that Mrs. Watkins would get madder than she already was, and And Mrs. Wilkins didn't even want cats to have kittens or birds to lay eggs, and she didn't want Alice to play with anybody who had 2 rabbits. But there wasn't much I could do about it except for pinch Alice, which I did, and she yelped, and Mother separated us and made me sit beside Imogene Herdman and set Alice to sit in the middle of the baby angels. I wasn't crazy to be sitting next to Imogene. After all, I spent my whole life staying away from Imogene. But she didn't even notice me. Well, much, that is. Shut up, was all she said. I want to hear her. I couldn't believe it. Of all the other things the Herdmans were famous for, never sitting still and never paying attention to anyone. Teachers, parents, their own, or anyone else's for that matter, the truancy officer, the policeman, and yet here they were, eyes glued on my mother and taking in every single word. What's that? They'd all yell whenever they didn't understand the language. And when Mother read about there being no room in the inn, Imogene's jaw dropped, and she sat up in her seat. Oh my God, she said. Not even for Jesus? I saw Alice purse her lips together, and I was sure there was something else that Mrs. Watkins was going to hear about swearing in church. Well, now, after all, Mother was explained, nobody knew about the baby was going to turn out to be no one knew that the baby was going to turn out to be Jesus. You said Mary knew, Ralph said. Why didn't she tell him? I would have told him, Imogene put in. Boy, would I have told him. What's the matter with Joseph anyway that he didn't tell them? She's her being pregnant and all, she grumbled. What was it that they laid the baby in? Laurie said. That manger, is that like a bed? Did they have a bed in the barn? Well, that's just the point, Mother said. They didn't have a bed in the barn, so Mary and Joseph had to use what there was. What do you do if you have a new baby and no bed to put the baby in? Oh, we put Gladys in a bureau drawer, Imogene volunteered. Well, there you are, Mother said, blinking a little. You didn't have a bed for Gladys, so you had to use something else. Oh, we had a bed, Ralph said. Only Ollie was still in it. He wouldn't get out. He didn't like Gladys. He elbowed Ollie. Remember how you didn't like Gladys? I thought that was pretty smart of Ollie not to like Gladys right off the bat. Anyway, Mother said, Mary and Joseph used a manger. A manger is a large wooden feeding trough for animals. What's with the waddled up clothes? Claude wanted to know. The what? Mother said. You read about it. She wrapped him in wadded up clothes. Oh, swaddling clothes, Mother sighed. Long time ago, people used to wrap their babies up very tightly in large pieces of material so they couldn't move around. It made the babies feel cozy and comfortable. I thought that was probably just made up. That would probably just make the babies mad. Until then, I didn't know what swaddling clothes were either. They sounded terrible. So I wasn't surprised when Imogene got all excited about that. You mean they tied him up and put him in a feed box, she said? Where was child welfare? The child welfare was always checking up on the Herdmans. I'd bet if the child welfare ever found Gladys tied up in a bureau drawer, they would have done something about it. And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them, Mother went on, and the glory of the Lord shone about them, and Shazams! Gladys yelled, flinging her arms out on either side and smacking the kids next to her. What? Mother said. Mother never read Amazing Comics. Out of the black night, the terrible vengeance, the mighty marvel. I don't know what you're talking about, Gladys, Mother said. This is the angel of the Lord who comes to the shepherds in the fields and out of nowhere, right? Gladys said. In the black of night, right? Well, Mother looked a little happy. In a way. So Gladys sat down, looking very satisfied, as if that at least one part of the Christmas story made some sense to her. Then when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, Mother went on reading. Behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, That's you, Leroy, Ralph said. And Claude and Ollie, so pay attention. What does it mean, wise men? Ollie wanted to know. Were they like school teachers? No, dumbbell, Claude said. It means like the President of the United States. Mother looked surprised and a little pleased. Sorry. Like she did when Charlie finally learns the times tables up to 5. Why, that's very close, Claude, she said. Actually, they were kings. Well, it's about time, Imogene muttered. Maybe they'll tell those innkeepers where to get off and get the baby out of the barn. And they saw the young child with Mary and his mother, and fell down and worshipped him, and presented unto him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. What's that stuff? Leroy wanted to know. Precious oils, Mother said, and fragrant resins. Oil, Imogene hollered. What kind of cheap king hands out oil for a present? You get better presents from the firemen. Sometimes the herdmen got Christmas presents for the firemen's party, but when the Santa Claus also had to feel all the way around the packages to make sure they weren't getting bows and arrows and dirt guns or anything like that. Imogene always got sewing cards or jigsaw puzzles, and she never liked them. But I guess she figured they were better than oil. Now we came to King Herod, and the herdmen had never heard of him either. So Mother had to explain that it was Herod who sent the wise men to find baby Jesus. Was it him that sent the crummy presents? Ollie wanted to know. And Mother said it was worse than that. He planned to put the baby Jesus to death. Oh my God, Imogene said. He just got born and they're already out to kill him? The Hermans wanted to know all about this Herod. What he looked like, how rich he was, and whether he fought wars with people. He must be the main king, Claude said, if he is going to make the other three do what he wanted them to do. If I was King, Leroy said, I wouldn't let any other king push me around. You couldn't have helped it if he was the main king. I'd go be king somewhere else. They were really interested in Herod. I figured they liked him. He was so mean that he could have been their ancestor, Herod Herdman. But I was wrong. Who's going to be Herod in this play? Leroy asked. We don't show Herod in our pageant, Mother said. They all got mad. They wanted someone to be Herod so they could beat him up. I couldn't understand the Herdmans. You would have thought that the Christmas story had come out of FBI files, and they got so involved in it. Wanted a bloody end to Herod, worried about Mary having her baby in the barn, and called the wise men a bunch of dirty spies. And when they left the first rehearsal arguing about whether Joseph should set fire to the inn or Joseph chase the innkeeper into the next country. That brings us to the end of chapter 4.